Hey guys, welcome to an episode of Loco Let's Loose. So normally Loco Let's Loose was a talk content, like where I just talk about random things that happen within League of Legends. But I thought I would make it more specific. I thought I would make it weekly and make it about LCS. So here we are. I'll talk about LCS weekly. I'll talk about how all the teams did. I'll talk about big storylines. I'll talk about picks that were important. For today, we'll just talk about the team. So without further ado, let's get started with Loco Let's Loose Week 1 edition. So first up, let's talk about all the teams that went 2-0 this week. And we'll start with the best, C9. I think C9 is by far the best team in LCS right now. I love what you guys are doing. They're a very, very proactive team. Blabber, incredibly aggressive jungler. Vulcan, incredibly aggressive support. Niski, actually one of the most proactive mid lanes we've seen. Licorice, what more to say? They just have players around the map that wants to get stuff done early and they're not afraid to pull the trigger. I think it's really rare to see this in LCS compared to the other regions. Like in LEC, we have a lot more teams like this. In LPL, basically every team is like this. I think Korea is the only other team that I would say is on the more passive side. Yeah, it's really, really good to see a proactive team in LCS do well. The player I really want to highlight is Niski. He had a great performance this week on Veigar. And also, most of you guys probably don't know, but he is now one of the bigger shot callers on Cloud9. He also does all the summoner timers, so we have a mini Doinby. And I have to mention his personality.
Before the game starts, I want us to punch each other, okay?
No.
Yeah, so we give ourselves power.
Wrong. I'm done. Wrong.
We give everyone power, dude.
We're not punch, just go, bro.
So what, dude?
So what?
We need to be energetic.
Okay, if we team reset, like we went through a good round.
No.
From what Mateo said, he's always up to do any kind of content that the team might need. And also from hearing from their coaching staff and other players on Cloud9, he's someone that's very vocal, that's very fun to be around, and that really rallies the troops. So great player in game, great player out of game, easy to work with for coaching staff and other kind of management. What's not to like? Niski, I hope you do really well this year, and I'm gonna call it early. He's my very, very early MVP candidate. I know it's only week 1, but yeah, that's Cloud9. So the second team we have is Dignitas. They also went 2-0. A really solid start for this team, but I wouldn't get too hyped. They played CLG and Evil Genius, and CLG was just god-awful. They were one of the worst teams in week 1, and Svenskeren pretty much ended the win away in the game versus EG. It's not like EG was ever in the lead, but Sven couldn't really get anything done, and I feel like it just was not that great of a game. I love the tweet afterwards regarding C9 saying they scammed EG because Svenskeren played terribly, but there's that. So Dignitas, I think you guys have a lot to work out, especially in the early game. There was a lot of mishaps and there was a lot of communication problems, it seemed like, and there is a player I do want to talk about. Froggen. So Froggen won MasterCard Player of the Week or something. Basically, the LCS desk voted him the best player of the week. Well, I agree, but I don't think there were that many standout players, and Froggen was in his comfort zone this week. He got to play his 2 core champions, Orianna and Victor. These are champions that stay in their lane, that farm up, that get strong in teamfight. He did split push nicely on Ori, but overall, I wasn't that terribly bought into Dignitas. I was one of the people that said Dignitas wouldn't be this like 9th place, 8th place team. I actually have them in making playoffs in my tier list. It's just, I want to see them continue doing well, but also, very importantly, I want to see how they adapt to the meta changes once some of the champions that they're really good at for Huni and Froggen kind of shifts out and they have to adapt. And if they can do that, then I'll be way more bought in. Now, let's move on to the last 2-0 team, FlyQuest. Very, very similar thoughts to Dignitas. I think meta's incredibly well fitting for them right now. Aggressive supports in the bot lane, mid lane pulls very similar to what Pyre Evil likes to play. I mean, Pyre Evil got to play Victor and Rumble, and Ignar got to play Leona and Blitz. Everything that they've been doing just is in their wheelhouse. So very similar thoughts to Dignitas. Like I said earlier, I want to see how they adapt to the meta once things switch out a bit. Also, I think they had their ducks in order before a lot of the other teams did in terms of figuring out how they want to play as a team. Almost every single team struggled with Visa, FlyQuest included. So we're looking at very unfinished raw products for teams. And we've seen this before from FlyQuest where they have everything figured out very early in the season and they pick up a lot of wins. And once the other teams start figuring stuff out, FlyQuest is kind of capped and they get overtaken. I'll be way more bought into FlyQuest if they can continue like this into mid-season and still look better than the other teams. Now, let's go to the 1-1 teams. First up, we have Team Liquid. I don't have any kind of hard feelings one way or the other on their performance. They are playing with the sub, but I am incredibly upset at one thing. TL talked about regional competition within North America being one of the reasons why it's hard to do well internationally as a top tier North American team. Then, Team Liquid, you kind of have to stand by that and you can't be complacent in North America. You just played 2 team fighting comps this weekend, which you've already shown such good mastery over, and you ended up banning Kiana and Lucian on blue side in your second game. I really want to see TL push themselves. And I think we should be judging TL differently from the other North American teams. Their roster is incredibly star-studded and they're such a veteran team. It's not that I hate you, it's I expect a lot more Team Liquid. Now, moving on to another team I wasn't very happy with, Immortals. I think they had the worst pick of the week with Trundle. With how jungle is right now, I don't think Trundle really has a role in the jungle. Jungle's all about you hit level 3 and then you keep ganking over and over again. Trundle's really good in metas where there's multiple tanks or you're counter picking him into like a Sejuani or a Rammus, but yeah, that's just not the meta. Like you want to be ganking consistently, and Trundle's a really weak ganker in the early levels, so I don't really understand why they picked it, and it left me so puzzled. And one thing I also really hate about Immortals is they're one of the least proactive teams. They just don't get anything done in the early mid game. They're averaging minus 949 gold at 15 minutes, so their early game is incredibly weak. I know it's only been 2 games, but you can already see it from how they're playing. This is not a team that's going to be able to rely on strong mechanics or outplays. That will not be their bread and butter, so they have to get creative with what they're going to bring to the table to do better. I think it's going to come in terms of good teamwork. I think it's going to come in terms of veteran shot calling, so yeah, let's see a little bit more of that. Let's see some cohesive gameplay and watch you guys be a little bit more proactive in the early game. Despite the 1-1 scoreline, I'm just not in love with this team, and I think they're going to be in trouble going into week 2, 3, and 4. So we have 100 Thieves next. They're another team I think that's going to take a while to figure things out. Ryoma, oh my god, this guy worries me. I think he plays so nervously on stage. From talking to a few of the European teams, it seemed like he was doing well in scrims. They described him as a average LEC mid laner, and an average LEC mid laner is pretty passable in North America, but look at this play right here on him playing Rise. You can see the wave pushing out from him, and basically there's 1 minion left, and it's gonna give him 14 gold if he stays for it. You just have to leave it, because the wave will push out, the LeBlanc, she can try to freeze it, but if you're trying to freeze it this early in the game, you're going to be taking so much damage, but he stays for that last range minion. He ends up getting ganked, has to burn flash, has to burn TP to get back into lane. Like, mistakes like this are very costly, and mid lane is really crucial in terms of who you are on the map. Like, you're right in the smack dab of the map. Like, you can affect jungle, you can affect bot lane, you can affect top lane. It is by far the most important role. It is by far the most important role. And yeah, like Ryoma, mistakes like this is going to cost your team a lot, so I really want to see him do better. And I don't think he doesn't know how to play mid lane. Like, this kind of mistake is just very obvious. It just tells me he is nervous on stage, so he's going to have to get over his nerves very quickly. Also, another player I want to highlight is Stunt. I don't think he had a very good week. I have a lot of high hopes for Stunt. He was incredibly good in solo queue last year, and I hear so much good things about him in scrims, and he had a decent academy performance, but he's never found LCS stage success, and it seems like that seems to be the continuing trend, so a little bit worried for the 2 youngins of 100 Thieves. Now, let's move on to EG. Honestly, I think we just got what I expected. I thought this team would do well if Svenskeren and Zizuke pops off, but when they don't, they just will not do well, and that's exactly what happened. I think Kumo, Bang, Zeyzal can be good functional pieces, but I don't view them as players that can really build their own lead. And another thing about EG, this is an old school brand with a lot of history and a record for excellence. Like, they've been winning titles in other games. So fans and analysts are watching EG extremely closely, and they've been trash talking a lot on Twitter. You're evil, we get it. But you're gonna need to walk the walk, not just talk the talk, because there's so much eyes on you, and if you give us this middling performance, man, you're gonna get memed like crazy. Now, let's move on to the 0-2 teams. Let's just get it out of the way. Let's start with TSM. Deep breaths, TSM fans. I got some good news and some bad news. Actually, a lot of bad news. Kaveh is great. I think he played well in both games, despite them going 0-2. He doesn't make mistakes in lane, he does his job in team fights, and he's not overly passive. He's definitely been an upgrade over Zben of last year. But the bad news, a lot of the same problems are carrying over from last year also. They're losing in mid game despite getting ahead early. There's a lot of hesitancy. TSM can just not pull the trigger overall as a team. And the drafts are kind of wonky. The first draft versus Immortals, they drafted a Rumble comp without any kind of engage or CC. And then the second game versus Team Liquid, they drafted Zillion with no melee carries. I said that correctly, melee, instead of saying melee.
Melee.
So, just looking into the future, I'm expecting the worst, but hoping for the best. Now, CLG. I think this was the team I was most disappointed with. I had you guys third on my power rankings. I thought Wiggly would be better in year 2. I thought Crown was going to be a great role model for Ruin, and they were going to really pick up their play level. But Crown, Wiggly, Ruin, all three were pretty dog shit. Like, look at this play from Wiggly.
They've won 2 LCS titles. They have banners hanging right here. Early gank though on Crown. Gets flash.
Flash, double flash follow. Crown goes pick one up, but cannot get away. First blood for Centaur. Now the follow-up flash to the knockup. But he's burning down Wiggly. That is not Minnesota style. A double kill for Centauri.
What in the actual fuck is going on? I have no idea why he's flashing in here. Just, this is... On top of all the individual mistakes, I think the teamwork was so bad. There were so many opportunities that Smoothie was creating for the team and they just could not capitalize. They will not follow up on the engage because they aren't on the same page. And there were just so many parts of the game where they had no idea what to do overall as a team. Everyone's doing separate things. It was just disgusting to watch. I think they have a lot of homework ahead. And I'm very, very worried for teams when they have a lot of different problems, since in League of Legends, problems tend to bleed into each other, and I think CLG is going to really struggle going into the future weeks. Now, final team, we have GG. Despite being 0-2, I think this is the team I'm actually the most positive about. They're the second most proactive team after Cloud9 and LCS. That's saying a lot. Or maybe that's not saying a lot, because we have a lot of passive teams in LCS. I was especially impressed by Closer. Great jungle. He was so proactive. He knew exactly where he had to be on the map. So a lot of times, like, junglers will default into, I do this path and I gank the side that I'm on. But Closer reads the situation and recognizes, hey, I can't just stay top side. Hey, there's nothing to get done on bot side. And he'll make creative decisions on the fly to make sure he can get the team ahead, and he's just been so spectacular at that. Props to you, Closer. But Golden Glue is still just Golden Glue. North America mid lane is not a meme. Mid lane is an extremely competitive role, like we talked about with Ryoma. I'm not going to repeat all my points, but it's not a role you can just be okay at. And I see him just doing okay things, and that's not going to look good going forward. As for Keith, I think this role swap is a disaster. He looks so lost on support. He doesn't know where he needs to be on the map. He doesn't know what he needs to be getting done. He's often hugging the wrong side of the map. He doesn't know when they can be getting vision. It's just, no bueno. So, I didn't think they did badly as I thought they would, but the problems they have in mid and support is going to take a long time to work on, and I just don't think they'll find solutions within this split. I hope you guys enjoyed the first week of Loco Less Loose. I'll be doing more of this. If you guys give me the support, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. And one last thing, I'm not crazy, I'm just Loco. Bye!